Welcome back, everyone, to Morning Line. Nick Barris, along with News Channel 5 political analyst Pat Nolan. We're taking your phone call, 737-7587, as we're talking about the Gubernatorial Forum tonight. Pat's going to be a part of that, by the way. That's going to be on News Channel 5 and News Channel 5 Plus, and streaming on Facebook on newschannel5.com at 7 to 8 o'clock. Okay, but also beforehand, you and Ben Hall
from 6 to 7, we're going to sort of do a preview of it, and then from
on Facebook.
That's right,
Facebook
and then from 8 to 9 we'll be. I guess from 8 to 9, I'm not sure it'll go a whole hour, but it probably will. We'll be doing a post game or a post event analysis of what happened
after the fact, and you'll be able to take some comments or questions from folks. Which, by the way, we're streaming right now. We're on air and online if you'd like, and we can take any comments or questions you have for Pat right now here. But we got a couple of calls. Let's take those that waited through the break, Pat, and we'll start off with Peter. Hi, Peter. Good morning.
Hey, Nick.
Hey, Peter. What's on your mind?
Well, just a couple of things.
Sure.
First of all, I'd like to give a plug for Marsha Blackburn. I've supported her the minute she announced that she's running for the Senate seat, and I think she'd be great. And she's a staunch supporter of our president, and of course I like that. But I would just like to comment on, fortunately in Tennessee, more people watch other news sources than just the main media, because their coverage of certain topics has been abysmal. Like, for instance, the new emerging scandal about what's been going on with the FBI and that agent Peter Strzok and his mistress. The mainstream media devoted 50,000 of their text messages disappeared. The FBI can't find them. They've been subpoenaed by the House committee. The mainstream media devoted zero time, NBC, ABC, CBS, to even covering the story.
No, I saw it today, and look, I don't know, what do you watch? Fox all the time? Is that all you watch? Because then you're going to be slanted. I watch everything, and you're wrong. I've seen that. I've seen the story, Peter. I'm sorry. I've seen that story. It was on this morning on CBS Morning News, and they're looking into those missing emails. So I'm not going to sit here and say that it's completely slanted, because you're wrong. There's plenty of outlets out there, and you need to watch more than just one network, Pete. Let's go to Brian. Hi, Brian.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, what's on your mind, Brian?
You're pretty hard on Pete there.
Well, I'm tired of people saying I'm sitting here being biased or others are biased. He's just wrong. Yeah, there's some people out there that have their commentary, but it's on both sides. I just don't want to hear it. All right, go ahead, Brian.
Listen, the Pat Nolan guy, make sure you tell him, I don't know if I've spoken to him before. I predicted the Trump win. Let him know that. So when I start talking, they'll have a little more respect for me. But anyway, Edison, he was a great governor. He was a Democrat. You're right about that point about how the governors of Tennessee, doesn't really matter if they're Democrat or Republican. They're usually pretty good governors, except for a couple of those Republican ones, like Sunquist. He was kind of goofy. But usually they're pretty good. And the senators are usually pretty good, too. They're very presidential, as you would say. We've had a great history of them. From Thompson to Alexander. Frist was a little weird, but then I like Haslam, except for the gas station when he was, when they were ripping off people at his gas stations. That wasn't too cool. And then I don't know. I wanted to ask. I asked your producer, who do you think is going to win? Who do you guys think is going to be the Governator?
Well, we'll see. As Pat said, right now it's undecided.
I would say undecided would probably be leading in the polls, simply because, except for people that are political junkies like us here on the stage and other people on the set, most people haven't even really focused in that there is a governor's race, much less who's running. I think that will start to build as we go into the spring and certainly into the summer months as we head towards the August primary. And I think a lot of the focus will go on to the Republican side because there are 5 candidates there. At least I think there'll be 5. We're going to get financial disclosures from all of them between now probably and the end of the month, and that may begin to shake out a little bit about who's going to have the resources. Several of these candidates are well financed individually, so I suspect all of May Beavers is the one. I think that's a question mark. She doesn't come that I know of from any personal financial wealth, so she may not have those kind of resources, but she's used to be running underdog campaigns, so she may well stay in the race.
How much does it cost if you're a candidate to run successfully or try to have a successful run for governor?
Well, probably in this particular case, we're talking about probably in the Republican primary, I'd say $5-6 million minimum, maybe more.
Each candidate?
Yeah.
Each candidate, $5-6 million.
Well, I think, at least a couple of $1 million to be able to be, because you're going to want to do You're going to want to do TV and radio, but increasingly you're going to do online. Now, online in terms of production is not as expensive as TV spots are, but I think you'll be doing a lot of that. You have organization, you get out your votes thing. I mean, it can be very expensive. So I'd say each candidate will be spending at least a couple $1 million, if not more, and that's just for the primary. And the Democrats will be doing some of that too, because they actually have last few times they've run a candidate maybe, and this time you've got 2 candidates in there with Craig Fitzhugh and Carl Dean. So that'll be a contested primary, and I look for that to have some media in it, but it won't be at that level simply because there won't be that many candidates in the field. I mean, I think there's going to be at least 4 candidates likely still in the race for the Republicans.
Yeah,
but it'll still be 2. It'll be interesting to see what the finances show there. If most people still think that Carl Dean is probably the front runner in that race, but will he show that in his fundraising? Will he show that he has a dominating lead in terms of the amount of resources that he's got? He's got some family money that came into play when he was running for mayor here in Nashville back several years ago. Craig Fitzhugh is well liked. He's in the banking business over in West Tennessee. I don't know that he's got the personal resources, so we'll see how much of that he makes up in terms of raising money statewide.
Name recognition. A lot of these names you certainly recognize. Of course, we know Representative Black and Beth Harwell. Carl Dean, former mayor of Nashville. Well,
let's see. There are 2 of them making their first races for office. This is the first time Randy Boyd, who's a former state economic development commissioner and also a businessman and a philanthropist. This is his first race, and Bill Lee as well, who's a Nashville businessman from the Lee Company. Right. May Beavers has run several times for the legislature, but not statewide. And Beth Harwell's got pretty good name recognition from being Speaker of the House, but again, that tends to be one that she's certainly well known in the Nashville market because she represents a district here. So I think her name recognition among the others would be pretty good. I think from what I've seen in the polling, and there have been some public polls out that have looked at name recognition, positive name recognition, and she has tended to lead that. I guess because of how active that she's been in terms of politics in Washington. She was also in the legislature before she went to Washington. So she seemed to be leading that. But again, she was down as all of them were, in the middle to upper teens at the best, and some of them were down a little further than that. So name recognition, you have to know somebody probably before you're going to vote for them. So name recognition is important, but it's about time we get in this race where pretty soon we're going to start looking at, okay, leave the name recognition aside. Among these candidates, who are you going to vote for?
Right. All right, let's go to Cindy. Good morning, Cindy.
Good morning, Nick.
Hi, Cindy. What's on your mind?
Okay, well, I don't think I'm going to vote for Haslam because I worked at Pilot, and he's the cheapest paying person in America.
All right, but Haslam obviously is he's done. This is it. He's leaving office, so he's not running again.
He won't be on the ballot.
I want him out.
Yeah, well, he's gone.
He'll be gone in January.
I don't know which one. The only other thing I was upset about was the park in Memphis. They took down Nathan Bedford Forrest's grave. They're gone. Nobody knows where they're at. And they also took down Davis's statue and won't give it to anybody. But they sold that for $2,000. Now this is scandalous. So I'm just saying I find that very upsetting, and I want to know who's behind it because I'll be darned if I'd vote for you.
I'm just wondering, all right, and that's maybe something outside just the realm of the governor itself, but will it come up during the campaign? Questions for these governor candidates about memorials or Nathan Bedford Forrest's bust that's at the Capitol, or do you think they'll be asked about that? And for voters like Cindy, the answers are important about how they feel about that.
I think it could well come up. Now, let me make everybody understand, it won't come up in tonight's forum. It focuses on education issues. But because of what happened in Memphis, and some people in the legislature are looking into that as to whether what happened was the city of Memphis, those two, I don't think General Forrest's grave was disturbed. I think there was a statue of him, and that was taken down, and so was a statue of Jefferson Davis.
That's right.
In both cases, they were in a city park. city of Memphis passed legislation to sell it to a private group, although it looked like that private group had a lot of ties to the city, and it wasn't a long-standing organization.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions about
and
how
so
that
it
went
was.
down.
It was. There have been some questions about the sunshine law of it. Although I'll point out the only penalty under the sunshine law is you have to go back and redid what you did in secret in public. So I mean that wouldn't necessarily change what Memphis would do. But that's been the problem. But that's a city of Memphis issue. It may become a legislative issue because I had the lieutenant governor on my Inside Politics show 2 weeks ago, and he was talking about wanting to look into it further. And I suspect it'll also come up because of the bust of Nathan Bedford Forrest in the state capitol.
Yeah, I thought nobody asked about that.
That will be coming up again. Brenda Gilmore, Nashville representative, has a bill up that would have the legislature remove that bust. Now, the legislature can do that. Otherwise, you have to go through a process with the State Monuments Commission, and they've turned down earlier efforts to try to make that change. But I wouldn't be at all surprised to see what they thought. Governor Haslam has been on record for wanting that bust to be removed, but he alone cannot do it by himself, and the next governor won't be able to do that either unless the law is changed. But I wouldn't be at all surprised to see them be asked about that, particularly if the debate begins to heat up in the legislature.
By the way, you mentioned Inside Politics. We should say in the coming weeks and months, you will be interviewing on Inside Politics every single one of these candidates.
We certainly hope to, and believe we'll start doing that later in the spring.
They can come. You'll give them that forum. Listen, we'll take a break on that. We've got several more phone calls. We'll be right back. Pat Nolan's with us, taking your calls, leading up to tonight's Gubernatorial Forum that News Channel 5 is proud to be a co-sponsor with, along with SCORE and the Tennessean. We'll be back with more right after this.
This is